Hiya! Welcome to Dia. Synthis. Last month, this channel hit not just 1, but 2,000 subscribers, and I wanted to celebrate by giving back to you all and drawing some of your characters. I'd like to thank everyone who submitted and wish I could have gotten to all of you, but unfortunately I had to limit myself to only 7. Whenever I was ready to do a new drawing, I used a random number generator to select a character, so if your OC didn't make it into the video, that doesn't mean I didn't like them. It just means the odds were not in their favor. For each drawing, I'll talk a bit about the character, a bit about the process, and then give some sneak peeks at future projects. Okay, now let's get to it, starting with Selene, who belongs to Absent-Minded Cat on TikTok. Her Artfight profile describes her as a socially reserved skeleton who wants nothing more than a normal life, but is impeded by an unspecified curse. Since she's a skeleton, I added some depth to her skull sockets to show that they aren't just black markings. Selene's description mentions she loves books, and I recently got to attend my first book convention. I grew up going to New York Comic-Con, but at the beginning of this month, I got to attend a convention held by the American Library Association. I got to attend panels, talks, signings, and met tons of cool creators. All of the posters you saw in the background of my setup came from the conference too. Absent-Minded Cat encouraged any changes in outfits that suited the character, so I tweaked the colors as in the original art they were a little hard to differentiate. And that's Selene. On to the second OC. Coincidentally, this one is also tied to books, since they're from the Warrior Cats fandom. Amberveil belongs to Kitty for Brains on X, who described them as a malicious and cold little guy. You'll see me playing around with their face quite a bit to give them an expression that matches this. I've been in the Warrior Cats fandom for over a decade now. It might even be tied with Pokemon as the one I've been in longest. My favorite part of this franchise is getting to see the clans, lore, and characters that fellow fans come up with. I'm only the artist I am today because I was inspired as a child by the speed paints and multi-animator projects that came from this community. Back in high school, I was in a couple of Discord role-playing groups, but these days I play the Warrior Cats tabletop game in person with some of my college friends. Although, we've made so many tweaks to the system that it's practically a new one that we created. I've been working on a video about this unofficial redux, along with essays about the franchise's disabled characters and Feathertail's relationship to RiverClan. You can get sneak peeks at these along with all of my upcoming videos by pledging as little as $1 a month to the Patreon linked in the description. Anyway, here's the art for Amberveil. My third target was Rob Sandwhich by Yeatmon1 on X. This sandwich-wielding warrior wears a helmet hoping it will hide the fact that he's a kobold from humans. What a fun character concept! Whenever I see kobolds, they make me think of enemy grunts from classic RPGs. I have been wanting to practice my pixel art, so I decided to attack Rob by creating an idle animation of him as if he were in an old video game. When it comes to pixel art, I begin by blocking out the character's silhouette in a single color. Once I'm satisfied with the shape, I start adding clothing and cleaning up the details. With all of my art, I try to limit the number of colors I use, but the palette standards for pixel art are restrictive even from my perspective. The program I use, Sprite, comes with a few built-in palettes that are inspired by ones from old hardware. I experimented with a few of them before selecting the AAP Splendor 128 due to all of the different options it has for oranges, reds, and yellows. At one point I turned different pixel groups random colors like blue, green, or pink just to make it clear to myself that I hadn't assigned them a color from the official palette yet. As for the animation, I had Rob bob around and thrash his tail. But then when I went to submit the attack, it wouldn't go through. I hadn't realized this, but to receive an attack on Artfight, you need to be officially enrolled on one of the teams. Since Yeatmon1 was only registered as a spectator, I couldn't officially submit my attack. I tried sending it to them on X instead, but their DMs were closed. So, Yeatmon1, I just hope you see this video. Here's the final project. Up next was another scaly scrimblow, Hartevian from geirokku on Artfight. I'll admit, my initial reaction was, oh boy. Since, as I mentioned in the video announcing this project, I don't have a lot of practice drawing dragons, but I'm not one to back down from a challenge. Speaking of dragons, next month's video is going to be the first in a multi-part series on the Dragon Age franchise. Back in June, new trailers for the 4th game along with confirmation of a fall release date were revealed. This sent me scrambling to complete all of these videos that I'd been wanting to make about the franchise's Jewish inspirations before the 4th game can drop and completely destroy the lore. I've completed the scripts for the Dwarf and Golem episodes, but the one on elves is going to be the biggest challenge by far. But now that my drawing of Hartevian is further along, let's return to the dragon at hand. Since apparently drawing a dragon wasn't enough of a challenge for me, I wanted to push myself further by restricting myself to brushes that I rarely use. There were some that I liked the initial texture of, but whenever my strokes overlapped, the look was ruined. My solution for this was to color the entire canvas in a single stroke, and then apply this as a masking layer to one that I was using a less textured brush to draw upon. The result was an image with a collage-like feel to it and a variety of textures. I hope you like it. With Hartevian done, I went back to the random number generator for our fifth fella, Sugarwind by cowzilaahhh on X. Oh my gosh, look at this friend! He'd be perfect to make a plushie or kirigumi out of. Artfight does accept textile attacks, but I couldn't make any this year since all of the materials I'd need to do so were back at my mom's. I'm staying at a new place this summer for my day job, hence why the setup is different. I move around quite a bit, so I'm afraid that the backgrounds for these videos are going to change just as frequently. I didn't have a specific pose in mind for Sugarwind, so I started by drawing only his head to get a feel for the character. I realized that what I'd made looked like a custom emoji that one might send in a Discord server or WhatsApp group. So I decided to create an entire set of these as my attack. I drew the ears, eyes, mouth, and mask all on individual layers, so that instead of having to draw each emoji from scratch, I had a base to copy, paste, and customize. The first emoji is a regular smiley face, the second, an excited smile, the third, an upset wince, the fourth, an excited gasp, and finally, a Sugarwind deep in thought. I hope cowzilaahhh gets good use out of these. Satisfied with the amount of Sugarwinds I'd drawn, I went back to the random number generator for my next victim, Sasha, who belongs to Amberveil here on YouTube. Sasha's profile provided a lot of potential jumping off points by linking videos they appear in along with songs that suit the character. When I saw Hungover in the City of Dust listed as one of them, I perked right up, since that song's from one of my all-time favorite albums. I decided to match the song by drawing Sasha in a spooky city setting, but some of the footage was lost. Amberveil listed a lot of AUs for Sasha, with one taking place on a super fun-sounding Dungeons & Dragons campaign that began as a Five Nights at Freddy's spoof. Last year, I ran a Blades in the Dark campaign at my college, where we replaced the game's gangs with our favorite fictional groups. We crashed a gala to rob the roommates from What We Do in the Shadows, had a dance battle with the cast of Grease, and teamed up with the archivists from the Magnus archives to defeat Megamind and avenge the Onceler's death. It was strange times. What I'm trying to say is, there are few things more fun than playing a TTRPG parody of your favorite franchise. Et voila! Behold Sasha. And now, the final friend. Gary by does-this-look-inanimate-to-you on Tumblr. Ooh, Little Shop of Horrors reference. Nice. I was bummed that the one animation I'd made couldn't be submitted, so I decided to make another as the grand finale. While Rob's animation was what's called frame by frame, which means each frame of the animation was drawn individually, I intended to make this animation using only tweening, which is similar to what I did with Sugarwind in that it consists of putting each body part on an individual layer that I can then transform rather than having to draw from scratch. When tweening, I create the initial drawing in Clip Studio Paint, and then export all of the layers to be edited into DaVinci Resolve. Gary has the legs and ears of a llama, and since apparently I'm in my brush era, I decided to use a soft brush that would mimic the fur of one. The part I was most interested in animating was his legs, since I'd never rigged something with hooves before. Problem was, I knew I didn't have time to rig his entire body, but submitting an attack that consisted only of a character's lower half felt weird, so I drew a bust of him as well that would be static instead of animated. And here's the final result. Okay, I'll admit, I'm not pleased with the composition and should have prioritized drawing a non-animated but connected Gary rather than a static bust next to animated disembodied legs. Sorry, does this look inanimate to you? So, that was our 7 characters. Let me know in the comments which of the projects I mentioned that you're most excited for. I'd also like to take a moment to highlight and thank everyone who submitted attacks against my fakey mono-Cs so far. Graveyard Sleeper made the squishiest little meow stick. Chanillox drew my Frillish swimming around with some underwater friends, and Warbeck nominated an adorable Nido Royal for the World's Best Babysitter Award. Gosh, just look at all those Nidorans! Half of the art I've received so far has been Wooper Mass Attacks, which, considering Wooper is my favorite Pokemon, I am absolutely thrilled to see. In this piece by Mr. Teeth, the lad's just chillin', probably staring at some passing Butterfree. While in this one by Extreme Blocks, they look downright lost in the sauce and I love it. It was great to see the sheer diversity of designs on display in this final piece by Zafkeels, and I want to thank everyone who sent me fan art, be it over Artfight, X, or email. Here's Black Dove Draws his takes on a new Meowstic variation and a little doodle of my icon. I love all of these so much. Seriously, thank you guys. See you next month. Bye!